The Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. These are 4 simple agreements that have the power to change your life. We're going to be doing a detailed breakdown of the book, and I'm going to share with you all the insights and takeaways you can get from it. Stick around for the next 30 minutes because by the end of this video, you're going to have a super clear understanding how these 4 simple agreements can change your life. Let's jump into it. Okay, let's get straight into the book. So the first agreement is to be impeccable with your word. This agreement sounds so simple, but it is a very powerful agreement. It is also the most difficult of the 4 agreements to honor. So it is through our words that we manifest everything that happens in our lives. And this has nothing to do with the language that you speak, your intonation, or how you speak. However, this is to do with your intent. So what is your intention when you're communicating with others and with yourself? You can kind of think of the word as a type of force that creates the events that unfold in your life. So the first thing you need to realize is that your words are powerful. It says here in the book, the word is the most powerful tool you have as a human. It is a tool of magic. But like a sword with 2 edges, your word can create the most beautiful dream, or your word can destroy everything around you. So it's important to really respect the power of the word and understand how your word can change your reality and the reality of others. You know, we only need to look at the first half of the last century to see how one man's word was able to change the course of history and create so much destruction, hatred, genocide. The word can enter our mind and change a whole belief for better or for worse. So understand that our minds are very susceptible to the words and ideas of others. Quote from the book, "You plant a seed, a thought, and it grows. The word is like a seed, and the human mind is so fertile." So this is not only the words and opinions of others, but also, the words that you use to talk to yourself. Okay, so if you're the kind of person that does daily affirmations, maybe auto-suggestion, or in general, you just have a positive outlook on yourself, okay, you're kind to yourself, then you will be sowing the seeds of positivity in your mind. But unfortunately, our minds are all too often fertile to these seeds of negativity, so seeds of doubt, fear, hatred, and, not to seeds of love, happiness, abundance, things like this. Okay, next, the word casts spells. So the book goes into this concept of us all casting spells on each other through the use of our words. And I'll tell you a short story just to illustrate this point here. So a kind-hearted man comes home from work, long hours at a stressful job, and he has an excruciating migraine. He walks into the house, his son is jumping around and singing and expressing his joy. In that moment, the father turns around and says, "Shut up, just shut up. You have a terrible voice." Now, of course, the father never meant these words that came out of his mouth. But due to the migraine, any kind of sound in that moment would trigger him to say these words to his son. But it was already too late, and the spell had been cast. In the days, weeks, and years that followed, the boy would never sing again. And he even became shy and dejected in social situations. He wouldn't like to talk to people because he felt like his voice was unattractive. And all too often, even the ones that love us the most and care about us the most are the ones that cast these spells on us. But, this doesn't mean that we should blame them for this because, they don't realize the power of their words, and we can only forgive them. again, we cast spells all the time with our opinions. Another quick story to illustrate. You wake up one morning, you're feeling great, and you go and sit down in front of the mirror, and you're sitting there putting on your makeup and doing your hair for 2-3 hours. And after that, you put on your new clothes that you've just bought, and you're feeling amazing. And your friend walks in and says, "What on earth are you wearing? And what did you do to your face today? It looks so weird." Now, if you accept the opinion as truth, as we all so often do, then your otherwise amazing day has just become one of your worst. And for the rest of your day, it will just be consumed by these negative thoughts. So, we don't know your friend's motivation for this opinion. Maybe she was trying to hurt you. Maybe she was envious because you were looking great. Maybe she wanted to be the best looking one at the party that day, and she saw you as a threat or something like that. We can never know. But whenever we hear an opinion and believe it, we make an agreement, and it becomes part of our belief system. So these agreements that we make over the days, weeks, months, decades even, that unfold in your life, these agreements can, they can really compound and take over your life for the better or for worse. So, people accept the opinions of others far too easily. And the more heightened your awareness becomes of these opinions being just that, an opinion, the more easily you can choose to not make an agreement with these opinions of others. Now, it doesn't explicitly cover this in the book, but it does touch on this concept, and that is that you are what you consume, or your inputs are equal to your outputs. So if you're someone that consumes negative information, maybe you're always watching the news, or you're always associating yourself with negative people, or maybe you're just someone that always likes to beat up on yourself. So you're always telling yourself, I'm stupid, I'm fat, I'm unintelligent, whatever it may be. Then if you're someone that does these things, what you're going to find is that your life is going to attract more negativity. And this all happens without you even consciously being aware of it. Because what is actually happening is your subconscious mind is taking in all this negative stimulus and manifesting it into all aspects of your life. So it's important to never underestimate the power of your subconscious mind, and always be mindful of what you are consuming on a daily basis. So be aware of what you're consuming, because this is something that you can proactively control. You can control what you consume. So maybe you need to change your environment or change who you associate with. Maybe you have some toxic relationships that you need to just get rid of. And the things that you watch and listen to as well. Okay, and finally, the last insight from this agreement: gossip is black magic and pure poison. Unfortunately, gossip nowadays has become, it seems like, the favorite pastime of far too many people. And you may have heard this quote before, and it's also used in the book: misery likes company. So people who are suffering, they don't want to be all alone in their suffering. So they misuse their word with harmful intent, otherwise known as gossiping. And they try to harm someone and bring them down to that same level of suffering. And there's a book I love, which is called The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And in the book, Stephen Covey talks about this concept too, like not gossiping about others. He refers to it as being loyal to the absent, so not talking about people behind their backs. And I also did a summary on that book. So if you'd like to check it out, I will leave a link in the description below. Gossip can be compared to a computer virus. So, another short story. It's a new semester. You're walking to your first class, and you have a new professor. You bump into your friend, and your friend says, "Hey man, be careful. That guy's a real jerk, and he's also a pervert." So you walk off to class, you sit down, and as soon as the professor walks into the class, you feel this emotional poison rising up within you. And you lean over to your friend and you say to your friend, "Hey, be careful, man. This guy's a jerk, and I hear he's a pervert." Okay? Now, before too long, this is spread throughout the whole class like a virus, and then through half of the school. Okay? And it all originated from one person's word. And we really can't know what your friend's motive was for saying these words. You know, maybe he just wants to blame that professor instead of taking responsibility for the bad grades that he got in that class. You know, we can never know. But imagine every time someone gossips to you, it's like someone is inserting a tiny little code of virus into your mind, which is making you just think a little bit less clearly. And the more of these gossip virus codes that you take into your mind, the more clogged your brain becomes until eventually you can't think clearly at all. And the other main reason why we should never gossip is that if you use the word to gossip and cause harm or to cast spells on others, they will use the word to cast spells on you. So what you put out into the universe, you will also get back. So, to recap this agreement, respect the power of your word. Your word can cause great destruction or great positivity. Understand how easily the word can affect our minds and our belief systems. We are always casting spells with our word. You are what you consume. The subconscious is very powerful. And don't gossip, because gossip is pure poison. So on a daily basis, we are getting stimulus from the outside world. This can be positive or negative stimulus. And how you choose to respond or internalize that stimulus is what we will talk about here, which brings us to the second agreement. Don't take anything personally. So if I was to walk up to you on the street and say something like, "Hey, you look so stupid," or "You'll never succeed with your business," or "Hey, you have weird looking eyebrows." Now, if I was to say these things to you and you were to agree with them, you were to agree with my opinions, then that is what it means to take something personally. So it says here in the book, you take something personally because you agree with whatever was said. As soon as you agree, the poison goes through you and you are trapped. Now, in my opinion, what the author is referring to as emotional poison throughout the book are the negative identities that we form within ourselves when we take things personally and we make agreements in our minds. And these agreements can start as small agreements, but over time, these agreements can compound and they can start to consume your life for better or for worse. And very importantly, like we touched on earlier, your subconscious is always working away in the background, and it listens to all these agreements and it gets to work at making them a reality. So if your inner dialogue is filled with a lot of negative self-talk, like "I can't do it, I'm a loser, I'm not worthy," then these notions compound and your subconscious is going to find ways to put you in situations which validate these beliefs and then furthermore compound the belief. About them versus about you. So others are going to have their own opinion according to their belief system. So nothing they think about me is really about me, but it is about them. And you may know the saying, your perception of me is the reflection of you. Another quote from the book, "Nothing other people do is because of you. It is because of themselves. All people live in their own dream, in their own mind. They are in a completely different world from the one we live in. When we take something personally, we make the assumption that they know what is in our world, and we try to impose our world on their world." Now, whenever someone gives you an opinion of you, positive or negative, we must never take it personally. So all opinions do is give you a glimpse into this person's reality or their dream, as the book refers to it. So, we're all striving to operate at a higher frequency, but, all people are at different levels, higher and lower. And you'll notice this when you communicate with different people, the words that they use, how they communicate. All of these things give you insights into their reality, their paradigm. So don't take the things that others say to you personally, because, different realities, different belief systems, and different frequencies. So he says in the book, and I like this, was don't make someone else's emotional garbage your emotional garbage. Whatever someone says about you is the reflection of them. So it's not about you, but it's about them. Next, when everything around you is great, everything makes you happy. So your outer world is a reflection of your inner world. And if you're someone that likes to beat up on yourself, misuse the word on yourself, and you easily agree to the opinions of others, then the chances are the filter or the lens through which you see the world will be tainted with negativity. And this negativity will seep into all facets of your life. And you'll always be finding yourself in these negative situations and associating yourself with negative people. And the opposite of that is also true. So when everything around you is great, everything makes you happy. If the things you consume are positive, the people who you associate with are positive, you love yourself, and you use the word impeccably to talk towards others and yourself, then your world in general will become more positive. And just to say it again, so your outer world is a reflection of your inner world. We make agreements to help each other suffer. Misery likes company. And some quotes from the book here. Humans are addicted to suffering at different levels and to different degrees. And we support each other in maintaining these addictions. People are asking for justification for their suffering. It is as if they have a note on their back that says, "Please kick me." They are asking for justification for their suffering. So, people want validation for their suffering. They want to know that they aren't all alone in these negative beliefs and suffering. And what usually happens is that negative attracts negative, or negative people attract other negative people, and they congregate around these negative beliefs and further justify and compound this suffering. And for me, I like to think of it like an echo chamber of negativity. And, people get stuck in these chambers of negativity all the time. So much so that they can't even see that different realities are possible. And in just the same way that congregations of negative people can, compound the misuse of the word and cause greater levels of suffering, positive congregations can do the opposite. So let's take, for example, in business. If you get a room full of, positive entrepreneurs, get them all together, that's where ideas will flourish, and, abundance mindsets will collaborate, and amazing outcomes can be achieved. Finally, for this agreement, keep the agreement with yourself. If you keep this agreement, you can travel around the world with your heart completely open and no one can hurt you. You can say, "I love you," without fear of being ridiculed or rejected. So with practice over time, you will become immune to the opinions of others, and you won't allow others to easily impose their opinions on you. If you need to, put it on your fridge or stick it up on your wall somewhere. Don't take anything personally. You really need to remind yourself of this and practice it day in and day out. So let's do a quick recap of this agreement. If you agree with someone's opinion, then you have made an agreement to take it personally. Emotional poison is forming negative identities within yourself. Nothing someone says is about you, but it is about them. Negative people tend to attract more negative people, whereas positive people attract positive people. And always remind yourself to not take things personally. The third agreement is don't make assumptions. So, a good rule of thumb, if you need to make assumptions, always assume the positive. So, as humans, we have the tendency to make assumptions about everything. And here's a quote from the book. We make assumptions about what others are doing or thinking. We take it personally, then we blame them and react by sending emotional poison with our word. That is why whenever we make assumptions, we're asking for problems. So if you're someone that usually operates in a negative state of mind, or you're always in negative environments, your assumptions will tend to be negative. However, the more empowered you become as a human, the more proactively you live your life, and when you begin to love yourself and the others around you, the more your assumptions will become positive. So, a short story. You're in a relationship, your partner hasn't replied for a few hours. Now, you could make positive assumptions. Maybe his phone battery is dead, he got caught up in a video game, or he has an important deadline at work. But you're not someone who makes positive assumptions. You tend to make negative assumptions. So, he's out doing something behind my back, or he's out with another woman. I know it. So you start to believe your assumptions as the truth, and you start looking for ways to validate this negative thinking. Maybe you start searching his social media for clues to where he might be or who this mysterious woman is that he is seeing. When all along you could have just saved yourself all this drama by just assuming the positive. Negative assumptions lead to blaming and resentment, which is another form of the emotional poison we spoke about earlier. And the more you think about it, the more it compounds. Positive assumptions, on the other hand, put you in a position of power, and you can see things more clearly, and you're better able to overcome and handle situations. The next insight, why we shouldn't make assumptions. So, quote from the book, all the sadness and drama in your life was rooted in making assumptions and taking things personally. So that's a pretty powerful statement. Think about any time in your life where you've had drama, maybe in a relationship or at work with a coworker. And the drama can be rooted in one of these. Either taking something personally, so maybe someone said something to you that hurt your feelings and made you emotional, or you made assumptions, which led to drama. So, by at least being aware and honing these two agreements, you can eliminate a lot of the drama that occurs in your life. Okay, so the next insight. We make the assumption that we know what the other person wants. So all too often in relationships, we assume that we know what the other person wants. And weeks, months, years can go by, and you can think that you're doing everything to make your partner happy, only to find out that, maybe nothing that you're doing is actually what they want. And he or she breaks up with you. And that's why it's so important to set clear expectations and never assume to know what the other person wants. You may never become 100% aligned in your expectations and wants of each other, but through not assuming, you can get those wants and expectations to, 95% in alignment. Assuming to know what your partner wants is like trying to find buried treasure in the middle of the jungle and you have no map. And you're just mindlessly wandering around through the jungle, hoping that you'll find this treasure. Or in this case, just aimlessly, hoping that your wants and expectations align by chance or sheer luck. But we do this all the time, and that's why so many relationships and marriages end prematurely. Okay, next. What is real love? Here is a quote from the book. Real love is accepting other people the way they are without trying to change them. If we try to change them, this means we don't really like them. Of course, if you decide to live with someone, if you make that agreement, it is always better to make that agreement with someone who is exactly the way you want him or her to be. Find someone whom you don't have to change at all. It is much easier to find someone who is already the way you want him or her to be, instead of trying to change that person. So you may have been in a relationship in the past, or maybe you know someone who's been in a relationship where this person probably isn't right for you. You're seeing, red flags from the start, but you say, I'm going to be this person's savior. I'm going to be the one to change this person for the better. But what you're actually saying is that you don't currently like this person. And you want to change and mold this person into someone that you do like or love. But this is nothing but an uphill battle. So try to find people in life who you can accept for who they are. Someone you don't need to change. This is a much easier path to take. Lastly, if you don't understand something, ask questions. Quote from the book: if you don't understand, ask. Have the courage to ask questions until you're clear as you can be. And even then, do not assume you know all there is to know about a given situation. Once you hear the answer, you will not have to make assumptions because you will know the truth. So Stephen Covey covers this concept too. One of the 7 habits in the 7 habits of highly effective people is seek first to understand and then to be understood. So people with big egos never seek to understand others, but they just make sure that they are being understood. They're too prideful to just ask questions, which is a shame because asking questions puts you closer to certainty, whereas making assumptions leaves you in a state of ambiguity, where, you're always just guessing and asking for problems. So if someone says something to you that you don't quite understand, or if you don't understand why your partner or friend is behaving in a particular way, put your ego aside for a moment and have the courage to ask. Never assume to know what your partner wants. So you need to put your ego aside for a moment and have the courage to ask. Let's recap this agreement. Negative minds breed negative assumptions that lead to blaming and resentment. Life's dramas are rooted in taking things personally and making assumptions. Never assume to know what your partner wants. Real love is finding someone that you don't have to change. And always seek the truth through questions and don't make assumptions. And the 4th agreement is always do your best. Your best will become better than it used to be. So none of us are perfect. We have bad days and good days. But even our bad days over time can become better and better until we get to the level where our bad days now feel like our best days in the past. And your bad days, will become less bad. So the more you practice the agreements pragmatically and ingrain them into your life, the more you will continue to see improvements. Next, action versus reward. Action versus reward. When you always do your best, you take action. Doing your best is taking the action because you love it, not because you're expecting a reward. Most people do exactly the opposite. They only take action when they expect a reward, and they don't enjoy the action. And that's the reason why they don't do their best. So you always want to be taking action. The opposite of action would be, procrastination. That's what we don't want. You always want to be taking action, but it's important to remember you want to be enjoying the actions that you take. So do your best to help others, but don't be expecting a reward. Be kind to yourself, practice the agreements, take massive action, but always be mindful that you're not doing the action because you want to receive some kind of reward. You're doing the action because you enjoy the journey. Now, you may or may not have seen this movie, Forrest Gump. It's personally one of my favorite movies of all time. The main character is Forrest Gump. And Forrest Gump is far from intelligent. He's somewhat of a simpleton with a low IQ. However, he always finds himself in amazing situations because he tries his best in everything that he does. So he's too simple-minded to expect rewards for his efforts from other people. But through always doing his best, it takes his life on these amazing journeys, and the universe rewards him greatly. So when you don't expect the rewards, that's when they will come. Next, the first three rely on the fourth. So like I mentioned earlier, the fourth agreement is like the engine that runs all of these four agreements. It says, the first three agreements will only work if you do your best. Don't expect that you will always be able to be impeccable with your word. Your routine habits are too strong and firmly rooted in your mind, but you can do your best. And the final insight I got from this agreement was master through repetition. So if you do your best always, over and over again, you will become a master of transformation. Practice makes the master. By doing your best, you become a master. So it's like anything in life. The more you repeat that action, the more you practice it, the better at it you will become. And these four agreements are no different. So you definitely need to make sure that you're practicing these on a daily basis. So if you need to, hang these agreements somewhere so that you're constantly reminded of them, then go ahead and do that. So just to quickly recap, your bad days will now become less bad and your good days will become better. Put action over reward. Never do things just because you think you're going to get a reward. Next, the first three agreements rely on this fourth agreement. And lastly, repetition makes you a master. So I hope you guys enjoyed this summary of the 4 agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. I hope that you can take away some of these insights and implement them into your life. And guys, I'm going to be making more videos like this in the future. If you would like me to summarize a book that you found interesting or you would like to be summarized, please leave it in the comment section below. And if you would like and subscribe to the channel, that would really help me out. Thank you so much, guys. Have a great week.